All right. So Evan, tell us about yourself. You're a CRE expert and a finance expert. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and kind of how you got into the space, and we'll start from there.
Yeah, to do that. So I've got about 15 years of investments experience, about half of that in like broader capital markets, wealth management, investment consulting, and then the other half of that in commercial real estate. And that means a lot of different things to people. Uh, to me, it means, I've been in institutional investment management for about eight years on the investor side as well as the investment side. So that's really the two drivers of our business. You need to have investors that drive capital, and then you need to have deals that you invest capital into, right? And they're both unique aspects, and it takes unique skill sets, to make the business go. But today we're here to talk about the investment side, and I've you know, with regard to that, I've been on the, I would call it, portfolio management side in commercial real estate and assets north of $1 billion globally. I've worked for reputable firms that have been backed by some of the largest pension funds in the world, local to the U.S. and other foreign investors and everybody under the sun. And I've actually raised capital globally and invested capital globally throughout the Americas, so South America and the U.S., and participated on the investment side, specifically in multifamily here in Southern California. So underwriting opportunities here and also finding capital to investors to capitalize those deals.
That that's dope. And as a longtime friend, I remember it was Evan was going through creating a brand new platform that was going to have lots of different developers on it, and it needed to be grossed up into a portfolio. And Evan, as a person that loves not just data standardization, but also needing to know what's truly happening across various JV partners, we talked at length, and this was years ago, about how is it that you can know truly what's happening. And so uh, we had conversations about what it was like to try to stitch different things together. And we just kick it off there. Evan, what was it like when you were going through this process of how do you stitch these different technologies together to do what you were trying to do? And then tell a little bit more about what you were trying to do in the first place, and then how you use the different technologies to try to handle doing that.
Thanks, Trevor. So, it's been, I think that technology and real estate, we've got this love-hate relationship where everyone knows that it's amazing and everyone knows that we need to be doing better with it. And everyone's trying to build a different kind of component that can talk here or widget and do this. But the problem is they're all very um, isolated from each other. And so the challenge that I found when trying to build a tech stack that could basically run acquisitions through asset management, so the underwriting process through asset management to valuations to quarterly reports to investor communications and down the chain there. There's components that are easy to stitch together, and there are components that don't want to talk to others, that want to hoard your information, that don't want you to own it, that all sorts of different challenges that you face. And there's not a way, as far as I could tell, before talking to Trevor and understanding what was going on with Copa, a, a, a system that can soup to nuts or end to end on the investment to investor experience give you like complete information. And so I worked with a couple different underwriting softwares, and the solution, the leading one that was able to give me good data to export, their best solution was to just download an Excel file template, and then I was going to take that and drag and drop it into and a deal pipeline management software, and that could work. But when we have other investment partners that are trying to submit deals, then we have to build a little widget for them to drag and drop their underwriting file into our web portal, which isn't the hardest thing, but it's a step. And then, anytime you create a step or friction, then there could be a software update that gets in the way of it one day, or it doesn't work perfectly, and there's lost trust in the process. And so the investment partners maybe don't want to submit deals to you first anymore, because why do I got to go through your process that is clunky, that versus I can go to my sure thing that I've been getting capital from for the last 10 years, and we've got this system down, even though it's archaic and clunky. Like, we've built this model, but it's less than ideal, and it's not a modern way of underwriting investments. It's not a modern way of approaching, uh, um, you know, taking a look at investments.
Definitely. And then I remember as we were talking, and it reminded me. We first started talking about this because we were talking about it from your experience for how we could do it for Copa Market. Remember that we were saying like how we got to bring on millions of properties. How are we going to do that? And you've been working on it. And I was like, so how? What's the easiest way? You're like, there is none. It's just it's not. It's going to take a long time and a lot of work. And
Well,
so
and yeah, and you had pointed out to me that the solution, I thought it was an AI driven solution that was ingesting into our pipeline management software, that was ingesting our deal information, or basically it was scraping uh, broker OMs and populating our pipeline management software. And you're the one that pointed out to me it's not actually AI or an automated thing. It was actually a group of people, somewhere that was working on it on a
uh,
manual
uh,
basis,
offshored labor.
offshore labor. And so, yeah, not sure about putting how we want to put that in, but yeah, I mean, so this is like, is that a sustainable way to approach underwriting too? Is to rely on folks that are so far away that don't understand it, and and there's certain, that's just the moral kind of consideration of that too. And so, like, it just, there's so many imperfections in trying to bootstrap things together. Things break, things change. Let's say maybe a big investment manager buys a technology, and now they change the policy on data, and they no longer want to allow you to bridge uh, this one step of your process into another, and all of a sudden you got this massive gap in your workflow, and you're out of luck, right? You got to figure out, okay, well, now we used to do that. What do we do now? Do we build it ourselves? And do we want to build just this one bridge to do this or this? Or, you know, to have it all under one roof, and to have, the autonomy to be able to operate it, as you see fit, like that's a priceless, um, value proposition for somebody that's just really trying to forget about all the technology side of trying to be a modern investment manager. I mean, leave that to the full-time experts to just take care of all those pain points.
And now just imagine, because the other thing too is when we were talking, I think there was, I forget if there was single digit number of investment managers that you would been working with. And then I started thinking, well, what if there were 100? And then how would you been able to scale that, whatever system that was there? How would you be able to scale that and do so knowing that the data would still all be correct and accurate, and that there wouldn't be any kind of blips or anything that happened along the way? And this is before I knew about AI that well, and I was just like, yeah, that seems like it could be tough.
Yeah, I mean the answer we had was we had to be extremely rigid, right? So we had to be strict in our data definitions and what we were accepting, and so that's a challenge because then, who wants to join our ecosystem if they have to upend their whole process of, how they're used to doing things, and, they've got decades of, experience doing it this way, and then just for, to participate with us, it's like, well, you got to do it our way or the highway. I mean, the adoption was going to be a challenge. So, to be able to have a flexible approach to, your um, I would call it like go to tech stack, and to be able to just plug in the all your documents and structure that you're used to um, operating under, and just plug it in and have it white glove to your let me say this again, to be able to be able to plug in your data and your investment process and workflows, and have your technology stack just match to you and white glove to your approach to doing things, and work in concert with the way that you're accustomed to working. I mean, that's a dream come true for somebody that it doesn't have the technical ability to build something like that themselves.
Yeah. And then it'd be very difficult for a developer who's not thinking at all about how to create systems to scale, and all they're trying to do is think about how do I make money and how do I get the next deal done. How difficult it would be for them to think about how would they make their individual businesses more scalable for them to be able to plug into yours. You're going to be more scalable because you were thinking about it, but for them, they're really just day to day.
Yeah,
They're
they need somebody thinking about that for them.
exactly that's
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So in small to mid-sized managers, or even the larger ones who are not the megas, they need somebody that are thinking about scalability for them, and they need somebody that is using cutting edge technologies, who's using cutting edge best practices to develop and stay competitive, so that you can compete with the mega funds out there, because they do have this advantage and they do have all the data. And so you need to have, somebody at your side that is helping you um, with, the AI, who can help you understand data and logic and everything at scale, so that you can compete with um, the mega funds out there who are already doing it. Otherwise, they're going to eat your lunch, or, worst case, you're going to do worse deals, and, then they're going to eat your lunch.
Exactly. Well, I think that's the main thing about for scaling, and then for from a real world insight perspective, what advice would you have for CRE firms looking to scale?
Okay. So, I think that there's a lesson in scalability from technology. Obviously, people recognize that that is the way to scale. They're the firms that have built the one water bottle and sold it 100 times, and they only have to build it once, and their cost of goods is that, right? So they understand scalability, and so obviously you need to follow in those footsteps, and it's clear, and I think everyone is well aware at this point about AI's capabilities to assist in scalability. If you think about AI, a super intelligence, right, who has all this information at its fingertips, or at its microchips, it's got it's always thinking 24/7 at a crazy bit rate. And I think humans, they operate at like 8 bits a second or something crazy. I heard someone tell me that it's like equivalent to a human trying to talk to a tree and waiting for a response. So like you're having a conversation with the tree and it doesn't really talk back very much. That's how bored AI is going to be with humans, right? So think about that as you're thinking about how, resources. Imagine that you're a tree and you can hire a human to go out and do a bunch of stuff for you in commercial real estate. And it
Oh,
works 24/7 and you don't have to pay health, you don't have to buy health care for it and you don't pay benefits and it's like and it pays in perpetuity. I mean, people get it, right? So if you're thinking about scalability, it's a no-brainer that you have to invest in it. And the issues with it are that I've personally been there before where you buy into a technology and there's all this upfront cost and uh, you think it's great and it works great for a year, but then it's on you to like maintain it. It's a main on you to update it, to patch it. It's got to work with your website. You got to patch it in there. Your website has new issues. There's constantly upgrades. The cost to maintain technology is, you know, it continues. It's an expensive cost. It's not just the onboarding cost. And so to think that you're going to be able to do it yourself and continually add value by having somebody, doing it internally versus just outsourcing, the best in the marketplace, just do that. Don't do it. Take it for somebody who's tried to do it internally with some very, very, very smart people. I worked with a guy who I've recently worked with again back in 2017. Very smart guy with a very smart team, and we built this asset management AI software. At the time it was machine learning. I don't know if people still call it that, but back then it was machine learning. I had no idea what it was. And we built this and it was very expensive and it worked really well for a while. And then we had this new kind of quirk in how we were doing deals. And then we started doing different types of deals and it no longer worked with the system. And then we had to go ask the people we hired to build it to come kind of help us along the way, and then we just kept needing more, and there's a scope creep and scope creep and scope creep, and it was just one of those things that like we're like they were like enough, like you're gonna have to we're gonna have to you're gonna we're gonna have to charge you guys again to like continue to maintain this. And so then it just became this like ultimately unsuccessful project because we couldn't really keep it going ourselves. And so you really have to outsource it and outsource it to somebody that is an expert.